The Locked On Podcast Network presents The Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
The Toronto Blue Jays tie the series at 2 with a 6-2 victory over the Dodgers.
You are Locked On Blue Jays, your daily Toronto Blue Jays podcast.
Holy smokes, boys. It's back tied at 2. I think there's a lot of people, it seems like after every loss or win, the narrative completely changes. It's, it's no, hey, let's just stay steady and believe and whatever. It's like, we're on top of the world. Oh, the world's ending. Oh, we're on top of the world. Oh, the world's ending. That's just how this playoff has gone and how it honestly is just going to go. That's the nature of being in a World Series. A massive, massive win. The Bats have woken up once again. The pitching staff gets it done. We got to talk Chris Bassett because, what an outing. And, of course, we'll tee up Game 5. As always, Braden Wasco Carter first, Skylar Peters, Braden Wasco Carter first, 2, Skylar A. Peters as our main Twitter account at Locked On Jays. You can follow us on Instagram and TikTok at Locked On Blue Jays. Hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. Skylar, we haven't heard from you in a while, so I'll start with you. We know you actually like to enjoy the games and you don't necessarily want to be covering it all the time for us. You want to be able to indulge yourself in a few beers here and there. You were out tonight for this game at a bar. You were getting the feeling of sort of how the community was feeling as well, not just, me and Carter sitting at home on our couch with our, looking through our hands. So what was the feeling at the bars and everything? It's something that's sort of how I've wanted to feel, but then I've also wanted to just in case I cry, I don't want to be out somewhere. So, how was it?
Yeah, big shout out to Ernie Sue and the crew at Trolley 5 in Calgary on 17th Ave. But, it was a great time. I was also a little worried. This is the first time I wasn't locked in on the couch behind me, literally doing this, which I was for 6.5 hours on Monday evening, trying to watch this 18-inning series. But you know what? It was great. And I think it really brought it back home for me. Like this is a Canadian team. And we're looking at this bar. I'm obviously in Calgary, Alberta, and everyone was like, there was a "Let's Go Blue Jays" chant every time there was 2 outs when the Blue Jays were pitching. We played "Okay Blue Jays" pronto at the end of the game. The whole bar was singing along. It was absolutely electric. This is what it's all about. I know all of us watch all 162 regular season games, and sometimes it might not go as well as, we all had hoped, but games like this is why we do it. And honestly, I was hopping on the Bird scooter driving to this establishment tonight, not knowing what really would happen, not hoping for a Blue Jays win. I wasn't typically sure that, Shane Bieber would deliver. We know how his last couple starts have gone. This is a dangerous lineup all the way around for the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it was really just perfect ball game from start to finish. Great defense, great hitting, timely clutch hitting for power. Obviously, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., the example of that. And the pitching got it done. And just a great effort for the Blue Jays after an absolute marathon on Monday night. Got it done, used as few bullpen arms as they absolutely could have. And this is really, really a perfect night for a Blue Jays fan.
Carter, my man, Skylar just touched on that, right? Coming off of the marathon game, and we're not going to look back too much on that one, but the ability to bring the bats, bring the starting pitching, the bullpen to be ready, all of this coming off of what an insane game that was, and being ready to go, I think that shows what kind of team this is and how much they want it, doesn't it?
Oh, it absolutely does. Don't get me wrong. Both teams were probably not feeling 100%. That wasn't the ideal rest that they were going to get going into a Game 4 stretch. But the Blue Jays show up once again. Every single time that you've had the opportunity to be out on this ball club, they pull you right back in. And it's guys that were kind of struggling in the last 2 games. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. finally hits a hanging breaking ball out of the ballpark. Wasn't just Vladdy. A lot of times throughout the last couple of games where you've had those hanging pitches, haven't necessarily taken advantage of them. And then the typical Toronto Blue Jays offensive way, in the 7th inning. The hit parade, some questionable decisions by Dave Roberts and probably John Schneider in this one. So yeah, you got to give the Blue Jays credit for doing it in this one and doing it all year long. It's on the biggest stage when everything kind of going against you. You play an 18-game marathon where it doesn't go your way. All the credit in the world goes to the Toronto Blue Jays for their performance, offensively, pitching, everybody that was involved in what they did in game number 4.
Yeah, and I think the biggest takeaway from this game is how they shut out Shohei Ohtani. I mean, he's going to be the guy that does the absolute most damage. There was a lot of people complaining about how many times the Jays walked him. Well, are you a ball fan or not? Why would you let the best guy with the best opportunity to beat you? Why would you not walk him in any situation you can? You see the Dodgers walk Vladimir Guerrero Jr. today. So for anybody that's complaining about it, it's not just happening to the Dodgers. This is how you play baseball and how you have to play baseball. It's a strategic game. It's going to happen. Yes, not maybe 96 times in one game, but it does happen to other teams, Carter. I guess the way that the Jays were able to limit Shohei today, not only offensively, but also get to him when he was on the mound. Now, is this a question of he was pitching and maybe didn't have his best stuff? Or is this just, hey, the Jays got him today?
I'll let Skylar kind of answer this one, and I'll go into what I think after.
Sure.
Yeah, I think I was really surprised. You heard John Schneider after the absolute marathon on Monday night, and I think his quotes were short and maybe not as much as he thought was going to be expressed into the media. But, he said that the plan for the Blue Jays is to let Shohei Ohtani bat as least as possible. I was really surprised. Not necessarily the first time. Like, I'm not saying you're going to let Shohei Ohtani take an intentional walk as the leadoff hitter for the Los Angeles Dodgers in the bottom of the first inning. But what I was really surprised at was the willingness for John Schneider to trust his guys and trust their stuff. Obviously, Shane Bieber delivered a couple of times against Shohei Ohtani. And the relief pitchers, I think it was a really good management of the bullpen. This circle of trust has become almost like a closed circle for John Schneider, clearly. And what we've seen from this Blue Jays team, like, they have a 13% chance of winning the World Series if they lost tonight. So this is the series tonight, essentially, for Toronto Blue Jays. I know they came back from a 2-0 deficit against the Seattle Mariners in the ALCS, but the chances of that happening again against a team as steep as the Dodgers with everyone they have in their batting lineup is just so impressive. I think this really felt, and I felt it, in this environment tonight was as much of a must win. And I thought all the pitching decisions and using the bullpen as he did for John Schneider was really impressive. And the execution, I mean, you call on your guys, you know what you can expect from them if you're the manager. And tonight it was a night where they all did. And that shows that Toronto Blue Jays are far from out in this series. I think when the Blue Jays went up 1-0 and the odds on FanDuel were a pick'em for the Dodgers and the Blue Jays to win the World Series. I think about that, and it's kind of silly to think about it now because it's the best of 3 and the Blue Jays are still very much in with 2 home games to go. But I think this kind of shows the trust the manager has in the bullpen, the starting pitching staff, and Shane Bieber delivered tonight, even though it wasn't as much of the paint that we have seen. I think back to his first start where he was all over the corners. It wasn't necessarily that. There was some hard contact in there, but you got to rely on this defense. There's a reason this team is probably going to win the defensive Gold Glove as a team. And they stuck to their fundamentals. They stuck to their process, and that's why they're coming up with a 6-2 win.
Well, and it's with everything, all things considered as well, like George Springer not being in this game, saying he's available, probably not available, to be completely honest. But hey, maybe a little bit of a smoke screen that Dave Roberts has to deal with over on the other side in that dugout. But you have Nathan Lucas leading off, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. hitting 2, when we've kind of talked about a lot of the time this year when he was hitting number 2, how that affected him, moving him from number 2 to number 3, and moving this lineup around with a lot of the guys that have been in their spots throughout their entire careers, moving Bo Bichette up, having Addison Barger be in that number 4 spot, and just the production that you got from the offense once again. It wasn't just one guy. It was everybody on this Toronto Blue Jays ball club contributing and obviously getting a must-win game 4. I had a game 3 as a must-win because I thought that Tyler Glasnow, even though he's unbelievable, was the most gettable starting pitcher on this Los Angeles Dodgers staff. As soon as you lose that game number 3, exactly like you said, Skylar, you go down 3-1 to the Dodgers. Like, you can almost wave the white flag. You're not going to do that, but you almost can. Very hard to beat a team like the Los Angeles Dodgers 3 games in a row. Now we are guaranteed to go back to the Rogers Center. They are like, the Dodgers will have to beat the Blue Jays at the Rogers Center at least one more time. They will not be able to win the World Series in LA. And I don't think they'll be able to win the World Series at all because this Toronto Blue Jays team is resilient. This Toronto Blue Jays team wants it. And whether it's Shane Bieber, whether it's Mason Fluharty, the circle of trust has been a lot smaller. Chris Bassett has infiltrated his way into that circle of trust, being one of the most trusted pitchers on the Toronto Blue Jays. Now you got a 3-game set. You got the momentum. If you win game number 5, you're in a very good spot. But even if you lose game number 5, I wouldn't say that's a must-win at all right now. Definitely helps you out. But I like where the Toronto Blue Jays are at, and I like the play style that they're rolling out right now.
Yeah, I can't argue any of that, Carter. A couple of things I want to come back and talk about has to be the offensive production from Bo Bichette and what Chris Bassett was able to do out of the pen and where he falls now in this circle of trust heading into, hopefully, a Blue Jays World Series and a few more games to go.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
You are Locked On Saints, your daily New Orleans Saints podcast.
The New Orleans Saints are expected, right? We have to say that it's expected. We have to say that it's reportedly will name Tyler Shough as their starting quarterback moving forward. Once we hear that from the Saints, then it becomes official. And unless the Saints have put out anything on social media in the last 6 minutes, then at this point, we're going to still say reported and everything like that. But this is very much the expectation, is that Tyler Shough will be the starting quarterback through the rest of the season for the New Orleans Saints. This would then give the team the opportunity to get a look at their rookie quarterback after getting 8 starts with Spencer Rattler to start the season. Of course, his final start in Tampa, ending in getting benched in the third quarter, and then the Saints turning over to Tyler Shough. That's part of why this decision is no big surprise. We'll dive into that here in just a sec. But now this gives the Saints a maximum, right, of around 9 games or of 9 games plus a bye week to get a look at Tyler Shough and then be able to go into the offseason and make an educated assumption, or rather educated series of decisions based on their quarterback position. So this is going to end up paying dividends for the New Orleans Saints one way or another. We'll get into the challenge on on Tyler Shough moving ahead, but this move was no surprise at all. And there were only a couple of things that you really needed to listen for to truly understand that. Kellen Moore making it very clear and being consistent about this all the way through, that he didn't want to flip-flop at the quarterback position. And so benching one quarterback for the other, and then going into the next week, going back to that first quarterback would have effectively been the flip-flopping that he said that this organization was trying to avoid at the position. The other thing is that the reason why they benched Spencer Rattler is because Kellen Moore felt that he needed to give the offense a spark. And there were a series of things that he said that they tried before changing out the quarterbacks, but then eventually shifted out the quarterbacks in an attempt to generate that spark, which effectively goes to say that if the Saints were to put Spencer Rattler back out on the field and they didn't get that spark again, that they would just make the decision all over again and then potentially go back to Tyler Shough. So the opportunity for greater flip-flopping beyond even just going back to Spencer Rattler was going to be there. And any person in that situation is then going to be looking over their shoulders. So just rolling ahead with Tyler Shough here, is the right decision to make. Now, I don't want to get anything twisted. Spencer Rattler did not do enough to hold on to the starting job. That's bottom line, right? That's easy to see, or not easy to see, but that is a part of the story when it comes to this, right? Either you are the starting quarterback or you're not. And Spencer Rattler at one point was. He now is not, and he has handled every step of the way like a total pro, going up to the podium to do media availability in the same game that he was benched, along with Tyler Shough, continuing to speak to the media and everything, and has done a good job just in terms of being a pro. And look, Spencer Rattler has dealt with this before. He's been benched before, going back to his Oklahoma days. He's dealt with adversity, all this other stuff. But now the tide turns, the page turns to what could become now the Tyler Shough era, however short-lived or however long-lived it can be. And that's the other thing that I don't want to get twisted, is that Tyler Shough has clearly earned this opportunity. I've seen a lot of people say Tyler Shough's not ready yet without actually seeing Tyler Shough. And the only people that have actually really gotten a chance to see Tyler Shough is the coaching staff. So they're the only ones that get to make that determination. Now, once they put him out on the field, everyone learns for certain. But if the Saints didn't feel that he was ready, they wouldn't be turning the offense over to him. They would just go back to Spencer Rattler. So clearly they feel that Tyler Shough is ready. So with all of those things taken into consideration, this is not a surprise to see the Saints make this decision, but it is a monumental decision nonetheless. The surprise to me was benching Spencer Rattler in game. It didn't feel like a Kellen Moore move. Or it was a Kellen Moore move, but it wasn't something that I projected as something that Kellen Moore would do in a game. But he did it. Kudos to Kellen Moore. Saw something he didn't like, made a change, right? And now he's continuing that change moving forward. The things that Kellen Moore has highlighted since we have spoken to him a couple of times since that game against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, he highlighted that he wants the offense to be more aggressive, that there's that there's some missed opportunities, that there were times where they had run plays that turned into throws, and that there's a sort of a desire for more explosive plays, which I think has been a desire all throughout the season even up to this point. And so those are the things you're going to be looking for Tyler Shough to bring. Can he be more aggressive than Spencer Rattler was? Can he find the explosive plays at a higher rate and at a more successful rate than Spencer Rattler did? Can he help to take some of those RPOs and be able to create those rushing opportunities, or see those rushing opportunities for his running back? That's always a tricky part with the RPOs. The Saints ran the ball, I think it was 5 times in the first half up against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. When you're instituting a lot of those RPOs, sometimes that ball gets pulled and it gets thrown. And so you're throwing on some of those run plays. Do we see a little bit of a different split that maybe is more to Kellen Moore's liking when it comes to Tyler Shough's decision-making versus Spencer Rattler's decision-making? It's not that one is more right than the other, but one might be more balanced than the other, whatever it might be. So there's a lot of things to look for here to see how it is that Tyler Shough can not only come in and become the Saints starter, but potentially hold on to that starting role. Because make no mistake about it, this is an audition for the New Orleans Saints 2026 starting quarterback role. There's absolutely no doubt about it. And so this becomes a very, very important part of the Kellen Moore era. This becomes a very, very important part of the Tyler Shough era, and it will be a long-standing, very important part of Spencer Rattler's continued story as well. And so we'll see how things ultimately pan out, but it will be this weekend up against the Los Angeles Rams that we're expecting to see Tyler Shough out on the football field as the Saints starting quarterback. That's a tough gig going up against that Los Angeles Rams team, that Los Angeles Rams defense, and getting that first start on the road. However, you can't make those decisions if you're an organization worrying about who your opponent is. You make those decisions about who your starting quarterback is based on what it is that you need as a franchise, what you need as an organization, and in some more specific cases, what you need as an offense. And I think that those are all a part of the decisions that have led the Saints to this point. And it's all part of why this isn't super surprising. And I don't mean to say that it's not surprising because Spencer Rattler was so clearly bad. I don't think that was the case. But I do think that there is a clear line of not being good enough in terms of what it is that Kellen Moore and the New Orleans Saints were looking for, not giving them what it is that they were looking for. And I do think that the obvious part of this is still very much there, which is that the Saints have told us what they were going to do all along. And it felt very obvious coming in. That's why we did this morning show as hey, this feels obvious. The Saints are going to do this, right? And then now it sounds like the Saints are absolutely doing this. Expect Tyler Shough to be the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints going up against the Los Angeles Rams. Now, the next thing that we'll take a look at is how Spencer Rattler could potentially win his job for 2026, because that's what these next 9 games are going to be all about.
Drake May isn't just an MVP candidate. After the halfway point of the season, we'll tell you why he's the guy to beat.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast.
Last couple weeks, we've talked about Drake May and the MVP conversation, quote unquote. And I've said that, yes, before this point, before week 8, before that game against the Cleveland Browns, Drake May was unequivocally in the conversation for the MVP. He was in the conversation. Post Browns, I think Drake May is your MVP favorite. Now, when we talk about MVP favorites, we all have to understand, acknowledge, and embrace the idea that we're splitting hairs. We're talking about some of the best players in football, and really, unfairly, best of the best quarterbacks in football, because as we know, quarterbacks usually win the MVP. And so 1 week, 2 weeks can mean the difference. One bad week for one quarterback while another quarterback does great, that can put that other quarterback that did great ahead in the race. And so when you look at what happened during week 8, now we are at the halfway point getting ready for week 9. Dak Prescott was not good last week for the Cowboys. They got trounced big time. You look at Baker Mayfield. I thought Baker Mayfield was leading this race going back 3 weeks ago. Last 2 weeks, Baker has not been very good. You might say Daniel Jones, as the Indianapolis Colts continue to win football games, I would say, well, Daniel Jones has Jonathan Taylor, who I think should be in the MVP conversation. And as I've just said a few moments ago, quarterbacks usually win, and that's probably why Jonathan Taylor is not getting as much pub to be the MVP, because he plays running back. Jared Goff, a lot of people look at the team that he has, the weapons around him. I would say he has more help than Drake May. To me, my opinion, the MVP race through the first half of this season is down to 2 individuals. It is Patrick Mahomes versus Drake May. With that in mind, we asked the question, how do those 2 guys stack up? Mahomes versus May. Let's look at the traditional statistics. Passing yards, Patrick Mahomes, 2,099. Drake May, 2,026. Practically the same. Touchdowns, Patrick Mahomes, 17. Drake May, 15. So slight edge in yards, slight edge in passing touchdowns for Patrick Mahomes. Completion percentage, Drake May, big advantage. 75.2% is Drake May's completion percentage. Patrick Mahomes at 67%. And if you're looking at passer rating, big advantage for Drake May. May is number 1 in all of football at 118.7. Meanwhile, Mahomes is ranked 10th in passer rating at 103.1. So when you look at the traditional statistics, it's 2 versus 2. When you look at the analytics, QBR from ESPN, this is kind of eerie, but Drake May is tied with Patrick Mahomes in QBR. They both are at exactly 76.3. Kind of crazy. EPA, according to Sumer Sports, Patrick Mahomes is first, Drake May is 4th. EPA per play, May is actually tied with Mahomes. They're tied for 4th, and that includes Lamar Jackson, who has only played 131 plays versus 300 plus for Drake May and Patrick Mahomes. Total adjusted EPA, according to Kevin Cole, Drake May is 2nd, Patrick Mahomes is 7th. Completion percentage over expected, May is number 1 in the NFL. When you look at the traditional stats and then you look at the analytics, I would say Drake May has the overall slight edge. But the help around May, even though it's better than it was in 2024, is still well below many others. Ben Solak of ESPN wrote, May's running game constantly puts him in difficult spots. On non-quarterback runs this season, the Patriots are 26th in yards per carry, 30th in success rate. Ben Solak continues, May faces 7.6 yards to go on third down. The league average is 7.5. Dak Prescott has the third shortest third downs. Daniel Jones is second. Yet on third and fourth downs, May is second in the league in EPA per dropback and seventh in first down / touchdown rate. The schedule, Nick, it's the schedule. How can you give Drake May the MVP after the first 8 games given the schedule he's played? Well, let's go back to Ben Solak of ESPN. In obvious past situations, Solak writes, there is no quarterback playing better. And we've touched on this throughout the year, but third and fourth down, passing downs, Solak writes, on plays with an NFL next-gen stats pre-snap pass probability of 75% or higher. So plays that you can predict 75% will be a pass play because defenses are expecting pass, dialing up blitzes. Drake May, under those circumstances, is first in EPA per dropback. He is second in success rate and second in passer rating. So when you look at obvious pass situations, Drake May is the best quarterback in the NFL when facing those circumstances. Third and fourth down dominance. Third and long, better than anyone else. Then you can mention the offensive line. May is 10th in the league in quick pressure rate, according to Ben Solak, which speaks to a porous offensive line. In fairness, I would say some of that quick pressure is on May himself. A lot of that quick pressure is on the team, tight ends, running backs. And nobody is better throwing the deep ball than Drake May. Fantasy football data. Drake May on throws 20-plus air yards. He's first in completion percentage over expected, second in passer rating. He's tied for first for highly accurate throw percentage. He's tied for first in catchable throw percentage. And he is first when it comes to off-target percentage. So Drake May, the best on third and fourth down, the best deep ball thrower, analytically, statistically, a top 5 quarterback pretty much across the board. Things might absolutely change, and there's plenty of time for things to change. That's why it's the halfway point. But right now, at that halfway point, Drake May, in my humble opinion, is the MVP of the NFL. I think he just edges out Patrick Mahomes. It's close, but I think Drake May has had the better overall season. And even when you account for schedule, even when you account for certain circumstances they face, when you look at the help that they have, Drake May is the MVP through 8 weeks. Playing against the toughest defense that he has played against all year, the Cleveland Browns last weekend, he continued to show why he's one of the best quarterbacks in football this year. And as we talked about earlier in the week, he aced that test.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I want to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Breaking news, the Rams have traded for a cornerback.
You are Locked On Rams, your daily Los Angeles Rams podcast.
We've been talking about possible trades and whether the Rams would address the cornerback situation with Akella Witherspoon out till probably week 14 or 15, dealing with that broken clavicle. Kobe Durant and Darius Williams and Emmanuel Forbes have played better of late, but they did make a move. Adam Schefter tweeted, trade. Titans are sending cornerback Roger McCreary to the Rams for a conditional 5th and 6th round pick swap per sources. conditions. Titans get 5th round pick close to the beginning of the round, which most likely will be the Titans' original 5th round pick. Rams receive the 6th round conditional pick that is close to the end of the round. Titans currently have 3 6th round picks. So basically, it's almost like you're getting the pick back from the Ernest Jones trade. But Travis, what is your reaction to this trade?
I think there's a couple of things that I pull out of this. Number one, I mean, I don't think you had to be a football expert to understand that this is the spot on the team where the Rams were the most vulnerable, right? When you look at their roster and you look at what they're really good at, they've got the quarterback, they've got the weapons offensively. Their offensive line feels like it's been good enough to make a run for what they're doing. Their pass rush says, speaks for itself, I should say, that where they needed some work was in the back half of the defense. And going out and getting McCreary, I think, makes them better. I don't know if it makes them great, but I do think it makes them better. That's number one. Number two, I think it speaks to kind of what, Doug, you and I have talked about for years now here, what our everydayers will certainly remember, which is when the Rams think they have a chance to go do something big, they don't wait around and hope that something happens. They go out and they try to make something happen. And this isn't Von Miller, and this isn't Matthew Stafford, and this isn't Jalen Ramsey. This player isn't, on that level. But what it is, hey, we're close. We have a vulnerability in the secondary. This allows us to get better with McCreary. And I think it lets us know that they believe that they're close to contending for a Super Bowl.
Absolutely. I think with Roger McCreary, it is a move where, this is not of the caliber of the Jalen Ramseys or the Von Millers or some of these massive blockbuster moves we've seen the Rams make, where they're not just addressing the need, they're trying to put themselves over the top. This is not what this is. This is someone who's going to improve your roster. A lot of Rams fans are happy about it. A lot of Titans fans are upset about it. That's usually a good thing. But if you look at just who he is as a player, it's a low risk, high reward move for the Rams. I mean, he's a impending free agent. He has a 4.617 cap hit for 2025. If he does perform well in his opportunity with the Rams, they could keep him around. But like the rest of the cornerbacks in this room, there's going to be a lot of decisions to make because none of these guys are really locked up long term. So he could be a more inexpensive option to bring back when you look at this group moving forward. But as far as, hey, it's about how can he help this team this year, right? That's more of the concern for me. And if you look at just his overall production level as a player, he's been someone who's had experience. He started 38 games with the Titans over the past 4 years. That role has gone down recently. He did have an interception in the Titans' Week 1 loss. He also had a sack in their Week 8 loss. Has 3 interceptions, 17 passes defended, 4 sacks, and 253 combined tackles in 55 career games. He's young, 25. He has some upside. If you look at, of course, we did say we weren't going to mention PFF grades for the history of the show because you had Geno Smith higher than Patrick Mahomes for one of these, but they do have him ranked as the 36th out of 112 cornerbacks this year. So, I mean, this is someone who's, we'll see if he's the big game changer, but I don't think that's the case. I think they like the upside.
I think so, too. I think what you said is right. I don't think that there's a ton of risk here. The capital going out, the draft pieces are not something that's going to make or break your draft. The Rams have shown that they can find players in the 5th and 6th round, so there'll still be some opportunities to do that thing there. But I think what you said, especially Doug, is mostly true, which is this is about today. This is about what's going to happen this season. Now, did they go out there and find somebody that can match up with a number one wide receiver like an A.J. Brown or somebody like that? No, but I think they're better today than they were yesterday, which I think is the goal for this team at this point. You still got another week or so before the trade deadline, so maybe this is the beginning of some moves. But, I agree with you. I think this is something that the Rams decided that will help them in 2025. I don't know if this was a deal that was done with anything beyond that in mind. And quite frankly, I'm okay with that. I think that trying to plan for what's coming up in the NFL years from now, other than at the quarterback position, is a bit of a fool's errand. I think that everything changes so much so quickly that as long as the quarterback and the head coach are mostly right, you can kind of figure the rest of the pieces out on the fly. And I think that's what they're doing right now. I think that this is a really positive sign that they believe they got a chance to go in there and do some damage, and they're trying to get better at the thing they were worst at.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good point for sure, is that it already just signals what we already knew, but it makes it official that they want to win in 2025 and they want to improve their roster any way they can, even if it is something that could be marginal at the end of the day. I mean, he was a second-round pick in 2022. He's someone that it's basically the Titans pick up a fifth for a sixth, so you're not giving up a ton of draft capital or anything like that. Over the weekend, just because it was the bye weekend, I mean, kind of had some fun dropping out big names. Could they go out there and Rams fans wanting Sauce Gardner? Truth is, the Jets, they just signed him to a new deal back in July. That's a minimum first-round pick, possibly 2 first-round picks. He had a guy that's the highest-paid cornerback in the league. So, yeah, I mean, this is not a situation, they wanted Cadillac and they got a Vega or something like that. No, they wanted to improve this roster. And the way that Rams feature cornerbacks, they don't ask their cornerbacks to be these game-changing positions players for this team, right? That's just kind of not what they do. And they play to their strengths, which is you're getting pressure up front. Nate Landman's broken out to be a star. Quentin Lake's having a Pro Bowl level year. Cam Kinchins. I mean, you got really good players on this team. You just want the cornerbacks not to lose the game for you, not necessarily have to win the game for you.
Yeah, to kind of extend your car analogy, it's not a Corvette or what they added is another, 95,000 mile an hour Toyota Camry. It's pretty good.
Yeah,
it's fine. It's going to run for a long time. It's going to get you to and from where you need to go every day. It's not going to win you any races. It's not going to meet you any women, but it's one of these things that, we got another guy that's a pretty good player. You can put him in the stable and you can put him out there. And once he gets up to speed and what they're trying to do schematically, I think that he'll be another good player. This isn't a shutdown guy. This isn't, somebody that's a lot better than what they had. I think it's another guy like what they had. And, when you got more choices to use, I think that's always a good thing. And I like it. I like it because of the player who it is. And I like the fact that it didn't really cost them all that much to go out there and do it. And most importantly, I like it because it kind of signals to Rams fans and to people like us, Doug, that we're on the right track as far as them believing that they've got a really good chance to make some noise this year.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
That is what you call an old-fashioned beatdown.
You are Locked On Warriors, your daily Golden State Warriors podcast.
What are they going to say now?
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network.
Matt Kolsky joins the program today to talk about a win where everyone stepped up, where the Warriors started a lineup featuring Quentin Post at the center, and with Jonathan Kuminga in that lineup instead of a Podziemski, they were huge. They got off to a real nice start. Then Podziemski himself and Moody and Quentin Post, and everyone steps up. This was a team win all across the board, led by Jimmy Butler. What'd you think of that one? Just an old-fashioned beatdown, specifically in the third quarter, where we will start. Warriors were down by 5 minutes in, and minutes into the fourth, they were up by 14.
Yeah, sort of a classic Warriors third quarter. We've had a couple of those so far this season, which I think is really encouraging. The thing about Jimmy Butler, and it was throughout the game, but there was a little of this in that third quarter too. One of the things the Warriors struggled with historically, but in this game specifically, is the way James Harden takes the air out of the ball and just sort of sucks the joy out of basketball. And definitely Steve Kerr's always talking about rhythm and flow, and the ball has energy, and like whatever that is, that beautiful game thing that Steve Kerr loves, James Harden is like the anti. Never mind. He's the antithesis of that.
Beauty's in the eye of the beholder, Kolsky, but I don't know if anyone finds that game beautiful.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I mean, yes, I'm also trying to insult James Harden, but what I'm really trying to say is
Clippers
that
as a whole, they had 10 assists compared to the Warriors 24. I mean, it's a lot of ISO
mucky,
ball.
disgusting basketball, and even the halftime show said it. Like, that first half was disgusting. What Jimmy Butler can do in those situations is reorganize and kind of get you going again in a way that I think has been really hard for this team to do historically. Like, when they get out of rhythm, it can be hard for them to find it again. There, those moments that we've seen over the last 5 years where it's like, wait a second, what just happened to this offense? It was humming, the ball was moving all over the place. And then somebody like James Harden goes and draws 17 fouls, and all of a sudden it's like, now they're not even
perspective, because the Warriors were running with pods and everyone in that second unit, and then it just, you're right, it mucked up, and next thing you know, Kawhi comes back in too. He hits a couple threes, and boom, Clippers are up. You're right. I mean, that's a good assessment that he just makes the game kind of disgusting, but very helpful for his team.
Yeah, and as you say, disgusting is in the eye of the beholder. He's effective in those moments, if you want to look at it that way. But Jimmy changes that stagnancy to where, I mean, look, you could always toss it to Steph, but he's not. Steph is going to go down in history as a better player than Jimmy Butler. But maybe there are two things Jimmy Butler does that Steph Curry basically can't. One is the defense. I mean, just physically, Butler is much bigger. The second thing, though, is if you give Steph Curry the ball in like oh God, Steph, our offense is dragging, we need you to do something. He's got to do it because of his size. He's got to do it like with a quick attack. He has to burst into it.
Butler's methodical, kind of a silent assassin. Strong, crafty, smart.
They've not had,
good.
We talk about the things that they haven't had, and certainly since Kevin Durant, they have not had a guy that can just be like, all right, there were two possessions in that third quarter where he was just like, all right, hold on. I'm about to take 19 seconds here, and I'll just work my way into something. And sometimes it's a pass to a wide open shooter. Sometimes it's an easy bucket at the rim. Sometimes it's an 18-footer. But that is a very valuable thing to have in a basketball game. And I think particularly in a game against a team like the Clippers that kind of have two guys like that with Harden and Kawhi, whatever I think about James Harden, he is one of those dudes.
And it's the gift that keeps on giving, man, because it kind of rubs off on everyone else. You look at the way that Kuminga's been playing, and they've been calling him on the broadcast. What, Jonathan Butler?
Yeah.
Little Jonathan Butler in him.
The approach continues to be perfect, and tonight was not a good shooting night, and I thought,
great start to the game, and then
he's going to start getting some of those calls at the rim. If he keeps being this aggressive, he's going to start getting some of those calls, and so far he's been a good free throw shooter this year, although again, tonight not his best in that department. But tonight wasn't about Kuminga to me. It really was about Jimmy Butler and then all the other supporting cast guys, the guys who came off the bench tonight, and Quentin Post really stepping up. That was a huge game. Really the first good game, I think, from Quentin Post this season. Came at a perfect time. I mean, Zubac actually probably had his best game of the season, but that's not because of Quentin Post. Quentin Post did a good job of drawing him away from the rim on offense. It creates space. He knocked down, 4 threes. Like, that's what he's there for. And his defense was representative, if not excellent.
Yeah, and I want to give some credit to just the rotations that Kerr had, because I thought the first one that he came out with when he went to the bench, and it was Horford was in there, and Gary Payton was in there. Jimmy was in there, obviously, Pods, and then maybe Moody, too, is the fifth in there, or Will Richard. But it was an interesting lineup he kind of threw out there. And Buddy, he didn't go to a ton of Bunny tonight. He only went 10 minutes to Mr. Heald, who went 0 of 1 from 3 and just didn't get a ton of run. He went with a lot of Moody, a lot of Pajemski. Those two, 9 for Moody, 12 for Pods. They each went for 20 the prior game, as did Kuminga. It was probably, Steve Kerr said it was probably the first time in their careers that they've each gone for 20 in the same night. I don't know if factually that is right, but I would probably guess so.
Sounds
and
right.
I mean, doesn't that just, and when Post is playing well too, doesn't that just raise the ceiling of this team so much to the point where you know that every game they're out there, Jimmy's rubbing off on them for another season. They're getting better every single time they go out there. And now you don't even get great games from everyone. I mean, Pods gave you a good one, but Kuminga's been better so far. Moses has been better so far. And you're still getting great production from these guys because they figured out how they need to play.
Pods was fine tonight. You know, I actually think the most noteworthy thing about tonight is that it's all relative, I suppose. Like someone just put in the chat that Quentin Post was incredible. And that's true by Quentin Post standards. This was a perfect Quentin Post game. But, you know, I mean, what, 12 points, 8 rebounds. It's not like he was plus 34.
Defensively, he did everything.
Don't misunderstand me. I'm not trying to crap on Quentin Post, who was awesome tonight. In fact, he was the first guy I brought up. But nobody exploded tonight at all. I mean, the guy who really had one of his best games was Butler, but that's still only 21 points, and that led the team. Tonight was really, and it wasn't like no one went off offensively, and so they barely beat the Clippers. This really was a strength in numbers. Nobody was spectacular, but Butler was quite good, and everyone else was good. And they beat the stuffing out of a team that a lot of people picked to finish higher than them.
Dude, the Clippers got no good looks. Everything was unassisted. It was ISO ball. It was tough looks. The Warriors were getting clean. I mean, the motion offense, beautiful looks.
Yeah, and Terry Gannon had the gall to give them the excuse of, well, remember, Bradley Beal's not here yet. I was not one of the people who picked the Clippers to finish ahead of the Warriors, and I
didn't either. We both had them in the play-in.
I don't think either of us had them in the playoffs, is what I was going to say. So I think they're about what I expect. They're 500 so far. I think they'll finish over 500. They'll get it together eventually, but this is not a great Clippers team, and they're not a threat to the Warriors if both squads are healthy, in my opinion. I think I said that yesterday when we talked about after last night's game. This is the back night of a back-to-back. It is a Clippers team that should be fresh and ready to go. And the Warriors really controlled the whole thing other than one ugly stretch in the second quarter. So,
light work.
It really
work, my friends.
It really was. And again,
a brisk jog from the Warriors tonight.
Right. And nobody had to be spectacular for this to happen.
Steph got scratched. I mean, you came out of it with a scratch. Yeah.
The neck scratch was vicious.
Like scar.
But I just think when the approach is like this, all the Warriors need to beat a lot of teams is everybody to be pretty good. And that's a good place to be. Now, when you get the Denvers and the Oklahoma Cities and the San Antonio Spurs of the world, it's going to be tougher, but they have the fact that the only team they've lost to so far is a team that's not a threat to them in the slightest. The team they've lost to is by far the worst team they've played, I would argue, the Portland Trailblazers. And they're tough. Like we saw, they'll whoop your butt on an off night. But it's incredibly encouraging that, dare I say, every time the Warriors have given a sincere effort, they've been great so far this year.
The NFL season is rolling along, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for this weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits however I want to bet in the moment. Player props, building a same-game parlay, jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and it's the best way to add a little more energy to Sundays. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
Keith, I'd say pinch me, except I don't want to wake up. This Sixers team gets better as the game goes on in the second leg of a back-to-back. Tyrese Maxey continues to lead.
You are Locked On 76ers, your daily Philadelphia 76ers podcast.
Midway through the first quarter to midway through the fourth quarter, really didn't hear much because the Sixers didn't give the fans a lot to cheer about, but they come back from 19 down. They come back from 16 down in the fourth quarter to win this game in overtime. 39 points by Tyrese Maxey. 23 of those, I believe, came in the fourth quarter in overtime combined. This team just doesn't quit, Keith.
Yeah, you got that right. They sure don't quit. I mean, you know, they're legitimately the modern version of the comeback kids. You know, and I hate to call them kids. I want to call them comeback men, but the nickname is comeback kids, so we're going to go with that, right?
The alliteration's not there.
Yeah. So, bros, don't get mad at me calling me a kid or whatever. But here's the deal. There's a will to win, and it all comes from Maxey. You know, everybody is being able to eat. Maxey wasn't the only person that helped bring him back. It was Quentin Grimes. You know, Quentin Grimes came up with some phenomenal plays. You know, Quentin Grimes was showing some athleticism that I didn't think he had. He looked like a wide receiver out there on certain plays. And then you got to talk about Adem Bona. 4 blocks in the fourth quarter, and then he comes back and he gets another block in the overtime, which was huge. So, you know, I thought they were going to lose that game. I really did. I mean, I did. I just felt like it was, remember we talked about it yesterday, a setup game. How are they going to recover? And then you look at it and you see that, you know, they started off missing a lot of shots in the overtime. And, you know, Maxey stepped up and showed what he can do. And the other guys followed suit. And it was a great win for the Sixers, a great win.
After we wrapped yesterday, I was thinking about the whole back-to-back scenario, and of course, the thought of scheduled loss went through my head as a joke and in a sarcastic tone. Even in my own head, Keith, I'm sarcastic to myself. But I was, as this game was approaching, I'm thinking this is a young team. It's early in the season. It's not like they're playing the eighth back-to-back of, you know, the 16 they have throughout the season. This is the first one, and it's a young team. I'm not as scared of the back-to-back, tired legs and all that stuff. But as they started to go down by 19, and when they went into the fourth quarter down 16, I'm like, all right, they're not going to get stronger as this game goes on. And then Quentin Grimes hit a 3. Tyrese Maxey started dropping in buckets. You started to see Bona come up with some blocks down the defensive end. And all of a sudden, things started to fall in place for the Sixers. And there was a couple of things in this one that really jumped out to me. And one of them was in that fourth quarter. Bona had back-to-back blocks at the one possession defensively, obviously. Sixers were able to, unfortunately, go through a little bit of a dry spell. And that's where I thought, okay, they're losing. It was 22 to 109 in the fourth quarter. And I thought, okay, they're just not doing it. Every time they do something, the Wizards come down and like Sarr hits another 3 or something like that, and they have a rally killer. Then Oubre had an end one situation after another Bona block. That made it a 122 to 114 game at about the 4:16 mark of the fourth quarter. Grimes comes up with a steal. Grimes comes up with a 3. They get the jump ball where Bona and Sarr go against each other. McCollum ends up getting it. They come up with an empty possession on a missed Middleton jumper, I believe it was. Grimes was on him defensively, and the Sixers from that point on just had things go their way. And then when the Wizards tried to respond, the Sixers had the answer, whether it was Maxey driving the baseline for that little reverse layup, whether it was Quentin Grimes 3, whether it was Maxey driving a lane like a bat out of hell and just making it a 1-point game. And then finally, Bona, my goodness gracious, if you're going to find a time to have your first bucket of the game, his follow-up jam on the Maxey missed floater in the lane, his first bucket, and how about this, gave the Sixers their first lead since I think it was the 3:56 mark of the first quarter, Keith. That was a team where you see Oubre coming in helping, Grimes coming in helping, obviously Bona, obviously Maxey, Jabari Walker had 8 points in this game. And we'll get more into Joel Embiid in a second, but he helped as well with 25 points a season high, and the season high 23 minutes. But this team just was laser focused in the fourth quarter and overtime. And it made me think again back to Tyrese Maxey's line on media day. We have to set a standard for what 76er basketball is going to be. And Keith, through the first 4 games, like I said to open the show, I don't want anybody to pinch me because it feels like right now, this absolutely is the 76ers team that Tyrese Maxey talked about on media day. I know we lost Keith there for a second. Hopefully he'll drop back. I think he was having a couple of internet issues. But watching Maxey go about his business late in this game, that's exactly what all-stars do. That's exactly what guys that are supposed to be, MVP candidates, which I don't think anybody expected. But when you put up historic numbers like you do for Tyrese Maxey, like he's done to this point this season, that's something that just makes you sit back and go, how much better can this guy really get? We talked about 111 points through the first 3 games. The only other Sixer to do that, Wilt Chamberlain in the 65-66 season. And then credit to NBC Sports Philadelphia, who put this out last night. Here's some incredible stats about Tyrese Maxey. He joins Michael Jordan and Russell Westbrook. Most points in the first 4 games since the 76-77 season. Michael Jordan, 163. Michael Jordan, 158. Michael Jordan, 156. Russell Westbrook, 151 in the 2016-2017 season. And Tyrese Maxey this year, he's up there with Michael Jordan. Tyrese Maxey, Keith, is now up there with Michael Jordan and Russell Westbrook for the most points through 4 games to start a season with 150 points. Jordan has the all-time record at 163, set in 89 and 90. What we're seeing from Tyrese Maxey is exactly what he laid out for us, Keith, on media day, the standard of basketball, and he's the guy leading the charge.
Yeah, he is. He is the guy leading the charge. I mean, right now, Tyrese Maxey is tied. I want to say he's tied for second in the most 3-pointers made at the start of the season with 18. He's also leading the league in scoring average at 37.5 points per game. He's showing how clutch he is. It was crazy because there was a point in the game when the crowd start chanting MVP for him. Now, again, we all know that it's a pro 76ers crowd whenever you go to Washington. But at the same time, it's crazy when you hear the crowd loudly cheering MVP in the overtime period when the guy's at the foul line. And then when he exited the court, there were loud chants of MVP over and over again, right? So Maxey is balling. Now, the one thing is, I do love what we saw last night, but there were certain things that I did not like last night, right? One thing was, and I felt like it made it a little bit tougher for them. When we look at VJ Edgecombe and a combination that VJ Edgecombe and Tyrese Maxey have, when these guys go out there and play, they have, in my opinion, the most electrifying backcourt in the early season. Now, it could change when people defend them differently, but they do. I felt like they had VJ Edgecombe as he was doing it, and it wasn't him. It was like he became the second coming to Tobias Harris. And what I mean by that is your offense is stand in the corner. If we get you the ball, you're going to get the ball, right?
Okay.
And I did not like that. And and then, Nick was saying after the game, it was a thing of the back-to-back. No, it wasn't. It was he was getting gunned out. It was like he wasn't getting the ball. And then he was just spacing the floor, getting threes. Another thing I didn't like is that while Embiid did have his best offensive game, he had Alex Sarr looking like he was the second coming of Hakeem Olajuwon, David Robinson, Tim Duncan the whole time, right? I mean, Alex Sarr was like Embiid had a tough time jumping. He had a tough time moving on the defensive end, which led to him just getting obliterated by Alex Sarr. And not only him, Marvin Bagley III shot 6 for 7, you know, and most of that was against Embiid. So, you know, to me, I just feel like for the 76ers to be successful, and this is the second game that has happened, you got to keep VJ Edgecombe in the game. Like, he can't turn into a role player who you say, hey, just go out there and play some D, right? You got to be able to get him involved. And on the defensive end, I mean, maybe this is who Embiid is moving forward, right? But at the same time, the 76ers, either you got to give him some help or you got to do something else because he was out there struggling. And we're not talking about struggling against the Joker, Karl Anthony Towns, Wembanyama. We're talking about he was out there struggling against Marvin Bagley III and Alex Sarr. Now, don't get me wrong. I know Alex Sarr was a lottery pick, the number 2, whatever. But, dude, last year, Embiid was destroying and embarrassing this kid. So they got to get that better. So, again, great performance. Great performance. And I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but you got to get Edgecombe involved early. And secondly, you need to give Embiid some help on the defensive end because, Mark, if we got to be real, and I hate to be truthfully honest, I don't know if the 76ers would have won that game last night if Embiid stayed in there. I don't know if they would have won the Boston game if Embiid stayed in there. And I don't know if they would have defeated the Charlotte Hornets if Embiid stayed in there. I know he played well offensively, but what he's doing on the defensive end is making it hard for him to play in fourth quarter minutes.